Yo, welcome back to the pod. Got the playoffs have officially started. Play-ins over. First round's underway. Best time of the year. We got the classic NBA TV series game two happening right now. Magic and Cavs. Cavs are up a dozen. Looks like they might take a 2-0 lead tonight. I think all of us had the Magic, didn't we? Or Riley, I think had the
Riley,
Cavs.
Riley's
Riley
are
did have the
yeah.
Cavs. I thought the Magic were gonna come out a little stronger, but they'll still be going back to Orlando. Uh, let's start with that series. What have you seen so far other than if you actually do have an NBA TV subscription? Colton?
Uh, Orlando's young, right? And we knew that going in, and that is one of the. It's funny because I said the OKC Thunder might get upset because they're young, but they're even younger. I think that it's clear that Orlando isn't used to playoff ball yet, just from that game one, right? I think what Orlando needs is a bucket getter at guard. Guess who happens to have a bucket getter at guard probably available this offseason?
You've been trying to
Who's
pitch
from Orlando?
Simons to Orlando for so long.
I don't know. I think it's just a perfect fit on paper. Orlando has great players
Who do
to
you want
cover
back for him?
for Anthony's lack of. I mean, honestly, the salary is one thing. Maybe if you can get, you know, Jonathan Isaac has finally come back and played. He's more of a salary. I think you're still looking for picks in this situation. Wendell Carter Jr. also, he's lurking down there. He'd be a good pickup, a good rotational big to add to the lineup. So players like that, maybe an Anthony Black, who they just drafted last year. But I know they have picks still. So
Yeah,
um,
they're a young team. You're right that they could definitely use a scorer. I think that's one thing that they obviously have the size, but they need a good like shooter, basically. I don't know
yep.
if Jalen Suggs is necessarily going to fit into that role. Definitely looks like, I mean, they're going against one of the best bucket getters in the league too, and Donovan Mitchell. So Riley, you last night, man, you called it. You were spot on with the OKC Pelicans score. You said that it was going to be a close game, which I don't know if a lot of people had, but you said this series is going to be a series of close games that OKC pulls out. What did you see last night?
Yeah, that's exactly what I saw. I saw that the teams are fairly evenly matched when they're on the floor together. They both are fairly inexperienced. I think OKC is even more inexperienced, definitely younger, statistically quite a bit younger. But as far as like their how well they approach the game and everything, it was a pretty sloppy beginning to that game. Neither team looked like they were world beaters. Neither team looked like they were ready for the big moment or the spotlight. It was kind of just who's going to blink first and actually put together some, cohesive offense. And I figured exactly what was going to happen happened. OKC is just a little better. They're a little bit more talented. They've got more options. They've got, really good size at the right positions, even though I think they're a little outsized in general. They were able to use it to their advantage and use their talent to their advantage and get the win. I think there's a good chance that game goes maybe no more than five, but I think every game's going to be like a 3, 4 point win for OKC. I just don't see the Pelicans able to pull them out at the end when we have these close games. If they're going to win games, it's going to have to be by 15. And I just don't know if that's going to happen except maybe once.
They do have CJ in clutch situations.
CJ had one big clutch situation for the Blazers, and that was definitely Game 7 in Denver when the
Did you
Blazers.
see the other night in the play-in game where he had an 8-second violation and then he stepped
Yeah.
on the sideline? I was having PTSD flashbacks.
He did it last
Well,
night too. He stepped out of
yeah,
bounds a couple
stepped
times
out.
and had a couple turnovers, just like deflections off of him. He's not a point guard. He can't play point on a winning team, I don't think.
Your boy Ingram had a horrendous game too. They're really gonna need him to bounce back and start being more efficient if they stand any chance in this series.
I still think if Zion Williamson was healthy, that I picked the Pelicans to win the series when Zion was playing. He played 70 games this season, by the way. And when he got hurt in the play-in game, he had 40 and 11 with 3 minutes left in the game. If Zion doesn't get hurt in that game, they could be the seventh seed. And even if he did, even if they lost that game, I would think the Pelican with Zion, I would still pick them. Honestly, the Thunder showed some growing pains. They showed some inexperience, and we'll see if they can gather themselves and kind of roll over the Pelicans in game 2. I think if the Pelicans were going to steal one, it was probably going to be game 1. So the fact that they lost that one and they don't have Zion, they'll probably lose in 5 now. I would have loved to see a healthy Zion in the playoffs.
Yeah,
Though.
it's too
He's so
bad
fun to
about that.
watch.
He just got hurt at the wrong time. Like you said, he was actually healthy this season, but just got hurt at the wrong time. All three of us have the Mavs beating the Clippers in that series, and that did not look like a super astute prediction for the majority of that game. They had a pretty good fourth quarter to make it look somewhat more respectable than it was for most of that game, but Zubats and Harden just shred them to pieces for most of the game. And Luka and Kyrie weren't very efficient, didn't look super amazing until that fourth quarter. Does anybody want to renege? Anybody going back on their prediction, or are we all sticking with the Mavs?
It's a big change up. I mean, it takes a little bit of bravery to stick with the decision after they got slaughtered at home in game
No,
one. But
it was in
It
LA.
was in LA.
oh, okay. Anyway, yeah. So I still think I'm gonna stick with I'm gonna stick with them. I think that they still have more talent, at least more talent that can like stay on the floor and play together. So yeah, I think that Dallas will figure it out, but it was not a good beginning for them.
I think Dallas
I
has the best player, maybe the two best players, but the Clippers are deeper.
I actually am going to change my mind, which I don't do a lot of the time. I really usually stick with my predictions. Uh, I am going to switch to the Clippers because of 2 reasons. One, how do you score 30 points in a playoffs series and a half? I know it's just one
That's
game,
what they
one
had
half,
in the first half. The
30 points. Yes. I know it's one half of basketball, but man, that
Dame
is
had five more than that by himself.
Dame outscored the Mavs. Yeah. So there was that. But then I did see a major matchup problem in the game because I watched a lot of that game. And that is Zubac. Daniel Gafford and Derek Lively do not have enough size. Well, they have size, but they don't have enough like girth to bang with Zubac.
Girth
Zubac
and
to me
tonnage.
is like if Nurkic was under control and effective at his size, what he could do putting the ball in the basket. Zubac literally just posts them up easy. And maybe they can play him off the floor, but man, he was an X factor, especially in that first half. He was really getting it going. Even Westbrook, I think, had his moments where he was playing really well. Harden threw Westbrook a lob at 35, and it was pretty exciting even for me. I'm not the biggest Westbrook guy, but it was pretty cool. I think that the Clippers are going to take it. I think Paul George, as long as he's efficient and effective, I think they're going to take it.
I just think the depth too. I think I'm gonna switch as well and go with the Clippers. I expected the Mavericks to look a little bit better than they did. Well, I mentioned briefly Damian Lillard, 35 in the first half, and they smoked the Pacers. Both you guys had the Pacers in that series, and I stuck with our boy, Dame Dalla.
I think I took the Bucks.
I think you guys both took the Pacers.
I think
I
I was
We'll
the
have
only
to
one who
review.
took
We'll
the
have to review the
Pacers.
footage.
We have to review the tape, but I'm 99% sure I took the Bucks.
But anyway, yeah, he was able to carry that team to a win early. But me and Riley were talking about it last night as we watched the game. It didn't really alleviate any of our concerns over the Bucks. I still think that that's probably going to be a close series. The Pacers just shot horrendously from three, and I don't think that's gonna, last for the entire series. I think the numbers will probably even out a little bit, and I think it'll be a 6 or 7 game series, but I still think maybe that game one's gonna push the Bucks over the top. I mean, Giannis is still a huge question mark with that injury, though. I don't know if he's coming back, and if he's not coming back, the Bucks are obviously have no prayer.
Yeah, I don't think he should come back unless they feel very, very comfortable because we've seen that happen with elite players where they go down with this kind of injury and they feel like they're good. Even, the sports medicine guys say that they're good to go play, but they're just not fully back yet and they do something catastrophic. So, I don't think this is Milwaukee's year. I just don't. I don't think that Giannis, even if he comes back, I don't think he's going to be at full speed. I don't think he's going to be ready to go. Our dad yesterday said it pretty well when he said, with Giannis, he's either in at 100% or he's not very effective because he can't rely on his shot. He can't rely on free throws. He's got to be Giannis if he's going to be effective. And even if he comes back, I don't know that he will be. But yeah, I still think that Milwaukee might be in trouble after watching that game. I don't think Dame's going to have a 35-point half every game. That's just asking too much from one guy. He's going to get tired. They're going to learn how to scheme against him. We've seen this year after year where Dame has, a really good playoff game. I mean, obviously he had a great playoff series, but he just didn't have any help. But it is pretty easy to figure out what you can't let him do. And we even saw some of that in the second half last night. If the Pacers come out and play the kind of defense they played in the second half against Milwaukee yesterday, I don't think that Dame's going to have that kind of half again. And I think he's probably going to have to continue winning games.
I'm just gonna say briefly before you go, Colton, that Middleton looked healthy and he looked good, and that's a huge X factor for the Bucks moving forward. I think that he can pick up a lot of slack where Dame's not scoring 35 and a half.
That's exactly what I was going to say. You took the words out of my mouth.
Sorry,
Chris
man.
Middleton is a major piece for that team. And honestly, he's kind of fallen off people's radar even more because he's the master of the mid range, right? But he looked healthy, like you said, for the first time since I can remember watching the Bucks.
Since they
He
won a
looked
championship.
great. Yeah, and if Middleton plays at that level, I think they'll be all right. What did he have? 23 and 9 or something like that, and he looked good out there. He had a lot of lift on his jumper, and he was backing people down, hitting the turnaround. That kind of because the lineup that I think made a big difference, especially in the second half, was when Dame was actually out and Middleton was in with a lot of the bench pieces for Milwaukee. Bobby Portis was doing damage as well. Brooke Lopez had a couple timely block shots. He still looks very old, very slow. He's got to hit some threes, but I think that Milwaukee will be okay in 6 games if Middleton plays like this.
Maybe the most impressive game one performance, at least to me, Nuggets really took care of business against the Lakers. I thought the Lakers looked pretty good in that first half, and they, had a little bit of a lead there to start the third quarter, and then freaking Jokic happened, and they just came at him like a tidal wave, no holding them back, and they pulled away with it pretty comfortably. Jokic really looked like the best player in the league, and that starting 5 lineup looked like the best lineup in the league. LeBron looked frustrated. Davis looked frustrated. They both had decent games. Hard to ask much more from those guys. I think this is going to be a tough series for the Lakers going forward. I think they might get 1, maybe 2, but yeah, I think the Nuggets are on cruise control right now. I think they're the team to beat, maybe in the entire league.
I think that Davis actually had a great game. I think he played like 45 minutes or something like that in Denver at altitude like that. They're asking a lot of Anthony Davis actually. Just saw on there that he wasn't even in the top 3 voting for Defensive Player of the Year, which I think is
He
kind
was
of
upset about that.
he, in my opinion, especially watching this game, he should be. He completely transforms them. It's why he couldn't leave the floor because he's effective at guarding. Now, on the other side of things, anybody who doesn't think Jokic is the MVP, sorry, what are you watching?
He's
Sorry.
insane,
How
man.
do you watch Jokic in that game and then you compare it to like SGA, which I've seen the late SGA narrative that Jokic winning another MVP is bad for the league. No. Jokic is the MVP. I'm sorry. It's clear. And yeah, Denver probably in 5 or 6.
Riley and I have had a meme lately where we've been doing a Jokic impression just as he plays perfect basketball. And I was doing it during that third quarter where it was like down 3, down 1, up 1, up 3, up 7, 10-point game, hold on for victory. Like
Wow, what a night.
he's just a machine.
He really is. Yeah. I mean, it's interesting too, because when you look at the stats, Jokic and Davis actually had really similar games. Jokic was 32, 12, and 7, and Davis was 32, 14, and 5. So I mean, they both played really similarly, but the difference is the just facilitation of Jokic, because if you included hockey assists in basketball, if those were recorded, or just the way that directing the offense, the flow of the offense, setting up guys to be successful. I mean, Jokic is the
Efficiency.
ultimate teammate, and he's is the MVP, and he's the reason that the whole team is favorites for the championship again.
Murray looked healthy too, which he's had a little bit of injury concern. He looked like the Jamal Murray we saw last year, where he's just a killer. And yeah, they're going to be a tough out.
He has the highest increase in points per game versus the regular season for his career out of any player in NBA history. So he
Yeah.
really turns it on come playoff time, and it shows every season.
The other team looking like they're in cruise control early. The Celtics handled the Heat. They came out and knocked out a huge first quarter run, but then the Heat came back and made it like a 5-point game at the end of the first quarter. And I was like, uh-oh, is this the same old thing we've seen like the last 5 years where Boston just has more talent, but is like just it's like a mental game where the Heat just keep grinding them down basically. But then the Celtics put on a huge run right after that and pretty much kept it at 20 for the rest of that game. I think there's a few differences in this Celtics team than in years past. I think Porzingis makes a huge difference. I think Drew Holiday makes a huge difference for different reasons. Holiday, great ball handler, great defense. Porzingis hitting 27 footers. Um, that team obviously can get in a shooting slump, and if they're not hitting their threes, they can start having problems. But they have so many good shooters. They just keep taking them, and they are
Derek
full of
White.
yeah, they're full of confidence right now. So anybody think the Heat's got a chance?
I think at this point, the Celtics, this is the most unguardable Celtics team that we've seen in a long time in terms of just having so many options. If Tatum and Brown don't have it going, they're in trouble to some degree, especially if they don't have it going for a whole game. But if they slump for a quarter or whatever, they just have so many more places they can go now.
Porzingis, massive. Drew Holiday was a massive addition for them. Special shout out to the Dame trade package players, namely one Tyler Hero. Looked horrendous. Also, he looked horrendous in the play-in game. Really steps his game up when it matters most. Last year, he missed the entire playoffs, and the Heat played better without him. But Blazer fans should be lucky to get a player like him for an All NBA point guard. Uh, what more can you say? Jovic,
Oh, Heat fans, we love you. You guys are just
he
you
was
know
there.
ball so well.
Jovic played. He attended the game. He wore a jersey for the Miami Heat. Jaime Jaquez Jr. He's a
He's
problem. I
good.
will
He's
give him
good.
that. But come on, the Dame trade package players. No, thank you.
Where's Orlando Robinson? You remember how they were hoping that they could wait until he became available so they could include him in that package, and I think he's averaged 2.5 points this year. So yeah, those Heat guys, they really had a great package there for the Blazers. Our GM just didn't know enough ball to take that deal. Could have
Meanwhile, the
had
Blazers got a lottery pick out of it.
could
So
have
worked
had
out so far.
could have had yet another guard, ball dominant guard in Tyler Hero. I think the only series we haven't talked about yet, Timberwolves put the smack down on the Suns, 25-point win. Edwards was cooking. He hit like 3 shots in a row over Durant, talked some smack on the way back. Looks like the emergence of a superstar, maybe a potential MVP candidate down the line. That dude seems like a cold-blooded killer. He looks like he has all the signs of those, the greatest shooting guards that have ever played the game. Hopefully he continues to play that way because I'm rooting for the Timberwolves in this one. A quick exit of the Suns would be fun to watch. What was Nurkic's stat line, Colton? Did he impress you in his first playoff performance? And he had 9 points and 4 rebounds on 4 of 6 shooting. So yeah,
You
I
know what?
think
And that's actually probably a better stat line than he usually has.
You know what? I think the Suns' only prayer though is to take Nurkic out of the game and go small to try to get Gobert out of the lineup. So I
where have
think
we seen that before?
I think even if the Suns have any chance of winning this series, Nurkic will be a non-factor. They'll have to put in like a Royce O'Neal or someone like that to go super small and try to play that way to get Gobert out of the series. If they don't do that, I think they could be in some trouble. Obviously, Durant could step it up. I expect a better game from Booker, but as we've kind of talked about before, they're a weirdly put together team. They're gonna need like all three of their superstars to take a lot of shots and make a lot of shots, and because they don't really have a lot of great defense or a lot of great bigs.
Go ahead,
Yeah, I
Riley.
mean, I was really impressed with Minnesota. They looked really like they came to play and to win, but I was just as unimpressed with Phoenix. And it was a lot of the stuff that we've talked about all year. They just have no identity as a team. They're just like it's like a Team USA or
It's
a
mercenaries.
all-star team or something like that, and they just don't seem to have like a cohesive system or an idea of how they're going to get these guys all these shots. We asked this question before the season even started. There's how are the shots going to come? There's not enough shots to go around. There never has been, and there's still not. In the playoffs, things slow down even a little bit more. There's even fewer shots taken. There's just no way that it makes any sense for those three guys to play together. And yeah, I mean, if Nurkic was scoring, something would be horribly, horribly wrong because he's not supposed to score. He's not supposed to take their shots from them. But it's just not going to work. It's not going to get any better for him, I don't think.
It's a tale of two teams. One is on the mega rise, and one is going to have some serious issues in a couple seasons. That being Phoenix, of course. So Minnesota is very exciting to watch. They have, Anthony Edwards, of course. I really like what Cat has done, how he's molded his game. He's fit in with Gobert. Not a lot of people said it was going to work. I've always been a Cat fan. I think he played well in that game when he had his moments, but obviously the game was about Anthony Edwards. They've got some defenders on that team. They've got Neil Alexander Walker, who was discarded from the Blazers kind of simply
Really?
as part of one of the transactions that were made. And he's looked really good. But on the Suns side of things, I just want to say this. If this experiment doesn't work out, I want you guys to go and look at what kind of assets the Suns have left after all their moves they made. They have no picks at all. They are way beyond capped out. They have no depth. They are in trouble. Like if this doesn't work out, if like next season they have more injury problems or they don't gel together quick, or even this season if they don't gel, they're going to be in some seriously bad shape because their players are going to age out. They're not going to get as much back for them. We'll see what happens, but man, they do not look good. You're right. It was just one playoff game. They do have superstar power. We'll see if they can turn it around. But I'm excited to watch Minnesota's rise and see if they can compete with Denver because honestly, they have some talent enough to hang with them, in my opinion.
I don't think we've talked about the Knicks and 76ers
Yeah, I was
yet.
gonna say we still have the one series to go that
Yeah.
I was wrong. We had one series to go. Embiid looked like he got hurt, but came back, ended up playing pretty well. Right now they're up 5 points, 4 points live update right now at halftime against the Knicks. Try to tie up that series. Obviously Embiid it's such a question mark. It's so hard to know if he's healthy. I think they win the series. I think two of the three of us had the 76ers,
I
but
took
one
the Knicks.
you took the Knicks. I think Riley, you took the 70s. I know I did. Maxi's playing pretty well so far. Embiid looks pretty good, but boy, the Josh Hart shout out. That dude had 20 like 3 in game 1 and he has 19 at half right now. There's 4 of 5 from 3. There's no way that continues. I think he's as streaky shooters come. I think those numbers will start to average out a little bit more. But there's a few other guys that are maybe waiting in the wings to step up their games a little bit. Brunson hasn't been like magnificent yet. Anunoby hasn't done anything crazy. So Knicks have a lot of depth. They're obviously coached well. Um, if Embiid stays healthy, though, I'm rolling with the Sixers still.
Yeah, we'll
Yeah.
see what happens. I think that, man, Embiid, for as dominant as he is, he's hard to watch because he looks like he's like can barely walk up and down the floor. Like that whole game, even when he's not injured in a game, he's still like waddles kind of down the floor. Uh Last game, it's the story of his career. Okay. He has one of the biggest highlights of his entire career where he does a self oop off the backboard over a guy in a playoff game, doesn't make contact with anybody else, and goes down in a heap and is injured. It's like amazing, but gets injured in the process. That was his whole career in a
The
nutshell.
process.
Trust it, right? So I I don't think that Philadelphia can hang in totality. I think this will be a close series. And I'm taking the Knicks probably in 6 or 7, but it's going to be interesting to see what happens.
Yeah, I have some real concerns about that knee for Embiid. I mean, they say that he's just going to play through it and he should be good. There's no way that didn't weaken something in his knee. It's just how it works. And yeah, I think it's a little bit dangerous to have him out there right now. He doesn't look like he's ready to be in a major playoff run. I don't know if he ever will be. I don't know if his body's built for it. Maybe that's just the sad truth. But it doesn't seem like it's this year because every time he tries to do something impressive, he's down in a heap with only one eye blinking, which was odd to watch. He seemed like he was really, really hurt and he came back, but I don't think he should have.
Well, first round of the playoffs in swing right now. Next week, I'm sure like a lot of series will be over or nearing a close. So we'll kind of make our predictions from then moving forward. Good takes today, boys. We'll see you next time. Bye.
Bye.